Part 147. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1471. Today's ancient Holmium God Lord is covered in blood-red ancient divine patterns. The ancient divine patterns are like blood, constantly flowing on his body, like a network of blood vessels. When the ancient Holmium God used this skill, Wu Yu clearly felt that the effect was no smaller than the increase in burning. After the ancient divine tattoo was added to his body, the ancient Holmium God immediately seemed to have changed into a different person. He is an immortal himself, so he will not be suppressed in the slightest here. Now that he has used such terrifying magical powers, his divine power has suddenly increased greatly. The fiery momentum seems to have the opposite effect, suppressing Wu Yu's Hell's Will of Souls. After all, he is the son of the patriarch of the ancient giant spirit god clan, and his bloodline is the purest. It is actually normal for them to have such a method of burning that is comparable to Wu Yu, and there may not be anyone like Wu Yu. The sequelae of exhaustion after use. At this time, the ancient Holmium God made a strong rebound, as if going crazy. Wu Yu exhausted all his strength, but he really couldn't suppress him. The ancient Holmium God had a huge hatred against Wu Yu. Under the blessing of the ancient divine patterns, even the Taixiantian burst out with even more terrifying divine power. The majestic power broke through the limit and really sent Wu Yu and the Hell Will of Souls flying away. Boom! Amidst the roaring sound, the ancient Holmium God rose up, dressed in blood red, and locked onto Wu Yu. His body no longer grew larger, but shrank rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was almost the same as Wu Yu, and more flexible. His movements were as fast as blood-red thunder, and disappeared in a flash. At this time, the ancient Holmium God had already reached the level of combat power. Catch up with the Ghost King at the second level of the Taigzi Ghost Realm in its prime state. To this day, I have never suffered such humiliation from the same person. In the eyes of the ancient Holmium God, there was a sea of blood in the sky, and Xuanhuan had been dyed blood-red by the ancient divine pattern. Boom boom boom. The ancient Holmium God is very good at melee combat, which is also the tradition of their ancient giant spirit god clan. At this time, he was completely suppressed, holding the huge Taixuanation heavy hammer. Every blow was like the weight of billions of mountains. The sound alone was deafening. From his madness, you can completely see the opponent's anger and determination not to lose. After all, with his noble status, how could he allow Wu Yu, a nameless immortal with no idea of his origins, to humiliate him at will? Even his most precious roaring sky dog, which he had raised since childhood, was killed. Although Wu Yu now looks like the White Ghost Lord, he is convinced that this is the Chifeng Immortal Lord. Wu Yu's duel has attracted a lot of people's attention. Many people have no hope of winning the 10th grade Immortal King seal. The two people in the small world simply agreed not to fight and concentrated on watching the show. Now they saw the Vulcan god. In turn, he suppressed the White Ghost King, causing him to be in danger and exclaiming from time to time. Those who don't know the truth think that this is a duel between heaven and hell. Only people nearby know that these are two immortals, one is a top descendant of the immortal emperor, and the other is a little-known figure. The conflict between these two situations will make this battle particularly exciting. In fact, Wu Yu is a ghost after all, and he has many supporters. Many people are worried when they see him approaching defeat. There were many calls, but he just didn't hear them. Looking like this, he must be trying to kill me. Of course, Wu Yu knew very well how much murderous intent he had when he made a move. If the total was divided into 100% and the murderous intent exceeded 50%, it meant that he had made up his mind to kill the opponent. Then the ancient Holmium God's murderous intent was now 100%, and he was displaying it. After obtaining the ancient divine pattern, he will definitely kill him. He had absolutely no intention of saving Wu Yu's life. I was originally afraid of your father, so I might not kill you. I just wanted to seize the 9 colored beads. But since you want to kill me and don't give me a chance to survive, if you use such magical powers, then I can only use burning. Wu Yu originally thought that if he could use it without burning, it would definitely be the best if he could defeat his opponent with his own strength. Because once burning is used, it will quickly deplete after the battle and the combat effectiveness will decrease. If burning defeats the opponent but does not devour it, there is no way to face the strong ones behind. If burning continues to damage the foundation, Wu Yu will definitely be killed or eliminated. At least in the case of the 10th grade Immortal King's Palace, once burning is used, there is no way out without killing people. But in front of him, the opponent was determined to kill him, and his ancient divine patterns were really powerful. At this time, the Tai Xiantian completely suppressed Wu Yu and had no way out. Even the ancient thunder gourd had cracks, and he couldn't hold on anymore. You are looking for death. You can't blame me. After Wu Yu suffered a heavy blow, black flames were already burning in his eyes. Heh, you'd better understand that you're not the one who's going to die in battle now. The ancient Holmium god inherits the power of his tribe. If there are ancient saints surrounding the body, there are many shadows behind him to bless him with strength. This is where the confidence of the ancient Holmium god lies at this moment. He has already seen Wu Yu's strangeness. Wu Yu naturally knew that he would live in heaven in the future. For him, killing the son of the giant spirit god would be more dangerous than killing the son of Bai Vuchang. After all, Bai Vuchang couldn't search for his presence in the entire heaven at will, but this giant spirit god could. He was really afraid that there would be some mistakes that he couldn't think of. But now, the opponent will either die or live. If you don't break through the limit and use burning to restrain your opponent, you will be eliminated, and all your hard work will be in vain. Forget it, just hold on to the brave ones. How can you seek wealth and honor if you are not brave enough to risk your life? As the saying goes, wealth and honor are sought in danger. After making the decision, Wu Yu was not polite and burned madly just like he did to the Will Ghost King. The black flames burned fiercely on his body, burning madly, and the flames burned endlessly. In the flames, there was a black giant beast with blood-red cold eyes. The hideous face was as strange as the black flames. Whoosh! The flames rose instantly, covering the countless thousands of feet of sages behind the ancient Ruo god. The black instantly suppressed the gold, and the cold breath also suppressed the violent breath of the ancient Ruo god. Wu Yu had already burned to the extreme. Since he had made the decision, he would deal with his opponent to the greatest extent. Before, it was the crazy counterattack of the ancient Ruo god. Now it's Wu Yu's turn. In the small world, black flames surged up, with Wu Yu as the core, covering the golden mist of the ancient Holm god. In the flames, Wu Yu looked indifferent. In terms of power increase, under the condition of complete combustion, he once again surpassed his opponent and reached the current limit. Boom! For a moment, all the power, before the ancient Holm god attacked, burst out violently. Golden fire, heaven and earth furnace. This magical power was used, the heaven and earth furnace merged, and the flames engulfed the ancient Holm god. In the furnace, the opponent pierced into it and was burned. With the power of the current fire eyes and golden pupils, even if the opponent had the ancient divine pattern to protect his body still appeared charred and necrotic. The entire small world is now Wu Yu's golden fire furnace of heaven and earth. This Cretaceous Ghost King has exploded again. But I haven't heard that he has this ability. This is not the ability of the White-Eyed Ghost King before. Is this Cretaceous Ghost King disguised as the White-Eyed Ghost King? But, he just defeated the Will Ghost King and even killed. Many people were stunned. Just now, I thought Wu Yu was going to lose, but now the situation has changed again. Who is this person? How can there be so many changes? The more time passes, the more people are full of fear, especially those direct competitors of Wu Yu. Now Wu Yu has incredible means. Before, those immortals did not think that Guruo Shenjun would lose at all. They almost saw him kill Wu Yu. Unexpectedly, such a huge change occurred at this time. Trapped in the golden fire furnace, Guruo Shenjun endured the burning, and his body began to collapse. He was furious and waved the Taixuanation, which changed into an extremely huge one. He wanted to rush out of the furnace and suppress Wu Yu again. "You're the only one who can do this," he sneered. Of course not. Wu Yu's expression became even more indifferent. He rushed into the golden fire furnace with black flames all over his body and appeared in front of the ancient god. Before the ancient god replied, Wu Yu had already tried his best to make a quick decision. Yun Yin. This is his real killing method. Yun Yin. The void shook and shattered. This entire small world was directly shattered by 1/10 in this terrifying void destruction. In fact, Wu Yu also tore this small world apart. And the ancient god in the center of this 10th was bearing the fire of the furnace. The shattering of the world at this time could be said to be sudden. He had nowhere to escape, and Wu Yu did not let him have any space to escape. "Your trick can't kill." The ancient god was probably prepared for this trick of his. When Wu Yu used the cloud seal, the ancient divine patterns on his body gathered together to form a cage to protect him, but he didn't expect that at this moment, the ancient divine patterns were completely destroyed. How is it possible? Guruo Shenjun widened his eyes. At this moment, he was completely panicked. However, this could not prevent the shock and destruction of the void from affecting his physical body. Whether it was his physical body or the immortal god, it was instantly shattered and could not be reversed. Guruo Shenjun was still in great shock and lost his life and all consciousness. And all this was still surrounded by the golden fire heaven and earth furnace, and no one could see it very clearly. Of course, Wu Yu also paid a price to kill him. The burning reduced his combat effectiveness. He could only devour Guruo Shenjun, but in fact, Guruo Shenjun's true power level was only that of the Nine Realms Immortal Lord, which was incomparable to the Will Ghost King. So at this time, Wu Yu did not return to his complete state, but could only be regarded as recovering 3/4. This incomplete recovery was quite dangerous for him. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1472. Before entering the 10th rank Immortal King Palace, Wu Yu had no intention of killing the son of the giant spirit god. This is, after all, the son of the ancient giant spirit god? With such a terrifying immortal emperor behind him, and even a huge clan, if they really knew his true identity, it would be very difficult to survive in the heavenly palace. Wu Yu did not expect that he could be compared with this guy so quickly. Killing him now means killing him, and he will have to bear the consequences in the future. After all, to get the 10th rank Immortal King seal that everyone wants, to become the immortal emperor that everyone wants to become, you still have to pay some price. Danger, it already exists. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. At this time, everything of the ancient Ryu god belonged to him. In his Taixuanation, Wu Yu found the 9-colored bead. Now, he finally has the 4th 9-colored bead. There are 10 in total, and he almost occupied half of them. The remaining ones, Mouji and Xianyang Emperor each have one in their hands, and the other 4 are in the central light ball. Wu Yu completely absorbed the memory of Gu Ryu Shenjun, and then the memory of many ghost kings, and he has knowledge of both heaven and hell. He is familiar with Baichao Ghost King and Gu Ryu Shenjun, so he knows the forces behind them and can avoid subsequent pursuit. At present, it is still difficult for them to discover their true identities, unless they reveal their handles in Wu Yu's state. After all, they can only push it to Chifeng Immortal King at most. The identities Wu Yu used before that were basically not noticed. Now only the identities of Chifeng Immortal King, Baichao Ghost King and Baima Ghost King are locked together, and Qingxian Immortal King may also be next, but it doesn't matter, after all, no one knows that he is Wu Yu. As long as he doesn't use all the means he used today when he becomes Wu Yu, there will be no problem. Although it was troublesome, it was worth it if he could get the 10th grade Immortal King seal and have the opportunity to become an Immortal Emperor. Now, the Taixu Immortal Road was almost over. He devoured and killed the ancient Ruo god. He had never dared to think about it before, but now he had done it. Although not many people actually saw that the ancient Ruo god had died in battle, there were always people who could guess that there were many prison masters, ghost kings, descendants of emperors and demons around. After getting it done, Wu Yu gradually separated from the small world and returned to the light ball. Only then did he realize that many people's eyes were focused on him, and they were extremely surprised and shocked. This meant that Wu Yu had defeated the ancient Ruo god and became the winner again, and the promising ancient Ruo god was almost out. If the immortals knew that he had died in battle, it would be even more difficult for them to accept it. In this land of ghosts and gods, the ancient Ruo god and Moug were already their spiritual leaders. In these shocked and unbelievable eyes, Wu Yu enjoyed the feeling of glory. The ghosts and gods still supported him, but now most of the ghosts and gods are very confused. They also doubt that the identity of this Cretaceous Ghost King, in fact, the son of Bai Vuqian, has never been as brilliant as the Emperor Xuanhuan. Although he is still high profile, he is not as good as the Emperor Xuanhuan in terms of status and reputation, and his current methods are not like the Cretaceous Ghost King originally possessed. Especially those who were familiar with the Cretaceous Ghost King before, these methods of his are simply unheard of. He won again. The Cretaceous Ghost King is really powerful. The dignity of our 10,000 hells is defended by him, but why are the methods he used a bit similar to your brother? In one of the small worlds, Zi Mao and a ghost of the same realm ceased fighting. After watching the battle, the ghost was both emotional and confused. Zi Mao clenched her fists. She didn't see her father again. At this time, her eyes were red and her whole body was trembling. "Why don't you speak?" the ghost said dissatisfiedly. "Go to hell," Zi Mao suddenly attacked him. "Are you sick? Didn't we agree to cease fire?" The other party was also confused. Zi Mao's mood was not something they could understand at all. Just as they were fighting and others were watching the excitement, another big thing happened. Wu Yu had just returned to the light ball at this time, and he was preparing to fight the next battle. Suddenly, the light ball in front of him broke, and he was directly rolled into the central light ball by a roll of light. Before he could react, he had already appeared on one of the 4 pillars, and in front of him was a 9-colored bead. I came in, he didn't expect it at all, because he seemed to have some distance before, and he thought he still needed to fight several fierce battles with those top existences. He got in. Damn. So lucky. Doesn't it look like there's still some distance left? Maybe it's not because of the distance, but because he's fought enough times. In comparison, he's defeated more strong men than others. So, he really got in by himself. Nonsense, this is a place set up by the Jade Emperor, why would he favor us ghosts and gods? Wu Yu's entry into the central light ball made a bigger noise than when he defeated the god of ancient Ruo before. After all, that was everyone's goal, and he actually accomplished it. He already had a 9-color bead. He got the god of ancient Ruo, plus this one, so he has 3. In general, people were still shocked by his performance and admired his strength. They did not think that he could enter because of mistakes. In general, he defeated many strong men, the most important of which were the Ghost King of the Will and the god of ancient Ruo. Under the situation of people's envy and jealousy, Wu Yu quickly put away the 9-color beads in front of him. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. The 5th one. Of course, he was excited. He finally got half of it. At least so far, he was the closest to success. Of course, He also knew that he could not take it lightly now. Now because of his success, the prison masters, descendants of the Emperor Immortals and descendants of the Emperor Demons around him became even crazier. Wu Yu looked around and saw that there were 9 color beads on 3 other pillars. Of course, he wanted to try to get them, but as expected, he could not leave the range of this pillar. The Jade Emperor would definitely not let him get the other 3 at once. He wanted to use the somersault cloud to see if he could jump over there. However, the risk is too great. If you don't master it well, you may directly leave the central light ball, which will not be worth the loss. So he finally gave up and waited here honestly. There will always be 3 other people who will come in. When the time comes, each of them will get a 9-color bead. In the end, how will the final victory or defeat be decided, or what kind of test will be faced, that's unknown. The situation is a bit unfavorable to Wu Yu now, because he had fought with Guruo Shenjun before, and the consumption was too great. Fortunately, there is still some time. For the time being, other people have not come in, and they also have huge consumption. Wu Yu took advantage of this time to sit down and recover himself. He now has a lot of money, many of which are immortal pills and immortal spirits that can have a huge healing effect. If it weren't for the fact that the floating life tower is a bit inconvenient to show it now, he would have more time. Although the floating life tower is not very effective, it can still give Wu Yu 2 or 3 times the time. Time passed. He gradually recovered. All around him were the most exciting top-level duels. He didn't pay attention to them and focused on recovery, because the earlier he came in, the longer he could rest and recuperate, and the larger his space would be. If others came in later, they would have experienced many fierce battles. If they had to fight again, it would obviously not be very beneficial for them. While recovering, Wu Yu vaguely felt the changes in the central light ball. He opened his eyes and saw that the second person came in. He thought it was the prison master or something like that, but he didn't expect it to be Emperor Xianyang. He appeared on the pillar opposite Wu Yu, with scars all over his body. It was obvious that he had experienced a hard battle, but he was the second to come in, which showed that he was quite strong. After coming in, he only glanced at Wu Yu, and then immediately took away his second 9-color beads, and then immediately began to recover, without wasting any time. Everyone knew that there would probably be a fierce battle later. Whoever recovered to the best condition first would be able to seize the initiative in the subsequent battle. This Emperor Xianyang, as the son of the northern Yin Fengdu Emperor, has the highest status here, and this is also his territory. He is so low-key and calm, and he is indeed very capable. Wu Yu continued to recuperate. Just now, the glance at each other was very interesting. It is hard to imagine what the consequences would be if 4 of them all had 9-color beads and appeared here. Then, in less than a quarter of an hour, the third one came in. Wu Yu saw that it was a prison master. This was normal. The strength of the prison master was very strong. This person was the Bingmo prison master, and he was also one of the strongest among so many prison masters. After coming in, he was almost severely injured. Obviously, the last battle was very exhausting, and now he was very weak. Next, he quickly collected the 9-color beads and entered. There was only one spot left. Obviously, everyone was paying attention at this time. Those who had no hope no longer wanted to try their luck, but stayed quietly and did not act rashly. Wu Yu did not pay attention to it anymore. After all, sooner or later, he would know who would be the last one. Now the most important thing was to recover. Another quarter of an hour passed. Finally, in the last turmoil, Wu Yu saw the person who came in. She was also very embarrassed, but even so, it was difficult to hide her face and temperament, as well as the noble and ethereal feeling in her bones. After she came in, she looked at Wu Yu deeply. From this look, Wu Yu read that she knew that she had killed Guruo Shenjun and knew that she was Chifeng Xianjun. The four people were finally here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1473. From first to last, they are Wu Yu, Emperor Xianshang, Lord of Bingmo Prison and Moug. The four people were all in the central ball of light, each standing on a pillar. Among them, Wu Yu now has 5 9-color beads in his hand. Emperor Xianshang and Moug each have 2. The ice desert prisoner who just came in got the last one, which adds up to exactly 10. Wu Yu guessed that although he had 2 9-color beads, which were obtained as the Qingxian Immortal Lord and the White-Eyed Ghost Lord respectively, they could obviously see that there had been so many changes so far, and it was very possible that they could only the Qingxian Immortal Lord who appeared once and then never moved again, and the White-Eyed Ghost Lord who was dazzling in the past and crazy and strange, are all Wu Yu now. So these 3 of them should all know that Wu Yu currently has 5 9-color beads in his hand. It was obvious that the 3 of them looked at him with deep fear. What changes will happen next? This is what the 4 of them care about most. The Jade Emperor's thoughts are difficult to fathom. Who knows what incredible things will happen? Suddenly, the change occurred directly. Before Wu Yu could react, he discovered that the central ball of light the 4 of them were in suddenly began to expand, and the expansion speed was quite fast. Outside, there are a large number of immortals, ghosts, and gods who are still in the small world or in the light ball. Some of them are only 1 step away from the central light ball. At this time, the central light ball quickly touched their light ball or small world. If it was a light ball, it would be squeezed out directly. If it was a small world, after the contact, the small world would be directly transformed into 2 light balls. The people fighting inside were separated again and crowded towards the outside. In a very short period of time, the central ball of light had expanded to fill the entire 10th grade Immortal King's palace. The other billions of small light balls were all crowded and hung in the 10th grade Immortal King's palace just like at the beginning. The inner wall looks like grapes. The central ball of light, which was originally very small, is now almost as big as the entire 10th grade Immortal King's palace. Wu Yu and the others were still on the 4 pillars. From their position, they could see hundreds of millions of people clinging to the outer wall of the central light ball. They were all watching the show with their eyes wide open. They could not move or leave the light balls were squeezed into the corners, arranged one by one, waiting to watch the show. Of course, Wu Yu and the 4 of them were still on the stone pillar at this time, but they had a hunch that the stone pillar trapping them would definitely change soon, because the central light ball had become so huge that it now included the territory can also be said to be an extremely huge battlefield. No matter who is in it, there is extremely ample space, and there are billions of competitors watching the battle at close range. The eyes of the other 3 people are also changing. Obviously, they have no confidence in what will happen next. The confrontation between the 4 people here is indeed very subtle. Everyone can feel the threat from the others. Even the billions of people outside, seeing the subtle atmosphere inside, held their breath, waiting for the next step of change. Suddenly, the remaining stone pillars of the 4 people disappeared. What does that mean? Wu Yu would soon understand. Because this means that in this huge central ball of light, they are likely to be able to move completely freely. This is what fighting means. The first reactions of the 4 people within a short period of time were exactly the same. That is, suddenly retreat and widen the distance between each other. They were too close before. Now, within a breath, the 4 of them are evenly distributed in the central light ball, and they have opened a huge gap between each other. Distance. Sure enough, I can move freely in this central ball of light. We all have 9-color beads, which means that in order to compete for other people's 9-color beads, there will be scuffles between each other, but in the end only one person can get the 10th grade Immortal King seal. So, 4 people need to compete with each other in a battle of wits and courage. Who can have the last laugh depends on more than just strength. Wu Yu looked at the other 3 people warily and quickly dismissed these thoughts in his mind. He knew that this was the setting of the Jade Emperor. Such a setting was full of infinite possibilities. It was not just a battle of strength, but also personal mentality, ability, and wisdom. With 4 people, countless combinations and changes could be born. Obviously this would be exciting. From the 1,000 colors Thunderball at the beginning to the current 4-person hegemony, it can be said that the setting has been full of too many tests. Unless you have extraordinary abilities, it will be difficult to rush here, and if there are some changes in this process, for example, the person who got the 9 color beads before did not make it to the top 4. In fact, now the 4 of them are fighting, it is useless. This is no wonder. Dongfang Chong and Saint Emperor said that it is more likely this time, no one can get the 10th grade Immortal King seal. The situation is very dangerous now. Fortunately, someone like Wu Yu appears, killing all the way and bringing in all the 5 9-color beads. Otherwise, the 3 of them would be in vain no matter how hard they fight to get in. I'm afraid the designers didn't even think of such a situation. As for the current situation, outsiders don't know much about it. They probably just know that no matter what, these 4 people will fight hard and compete with wits and courage. As spectators, they have no pressure at all and can completely watch the show. Even life and death are quite possible. If they knew that the descendants of the Emperor Immortal and the Emperor Demon such as the Chalk Ghost Lord and the ancient Holmium God Lord had all died in battle, they would probably be even more shocked. I believe the other 3 people will definitely think about this question. The Bingmo prison master first looked at Wu Yu, and he said lightly, I guess Jingxian Immortal Lord and Bama Ghost Lord are both you, that is to say, you have 5 9-color beads on you, just enough to collect 10. It seems that you have done a great deed. He meant to thank Wu Yu for bringing in the harmonious 9-color beads, but this was not a real thank you. Emperor Xianyang and Moug were both looking at Wu Yu, who was changing all the time and making them feel daunted. It was obvious that Wu Yu was the one they were most daunted about now, especially his ability to change. Of course, they also coveted the 5 9-color beads in his hand. Everyone knows who is the most dangerous person here. Why don't we get rid of him first and get rid of this variable, and then come? Bingmo prison master couldn't wait any longer. Wu Yu and the others had no intention of taking action, and he felt that it was particularly important to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of Wu Yu, who he thought was the biggest threat and variable. After hearing this, Emperor Xianyang seemed to agree and wanted to stand with Bingmo prison master. Bingmo prison master could be loyal to him. They were both real hell gods, so Wu Yu was not worried. At this time, Moug was a little smarter and knew who her opponent would be. That won't work. If you solve him, I'll be the next one, Moug said, and seemed very sincere, and approached Wu Yu directly. Among the 4 people, Emperor Xianyang and Bingmo prison master had the easiest relationship. Although Moug had no relationship with Chifeng Immortal Lord, they were all immortals after all. Once Wu Yu was gone, she would definitely be the next one to be eliminated by the other 2, and she had no confidence in fighting 2 alone, so for her, the safest thing was to join forces with Wu Yu. In this way, the 2 combinations of heaven and hell appeared. Moug did not hesitate at all. She took the initiative and appeared beside Wu Yu. She looked at Wu Yu with clear eyes. Her black hair was flying, her long skirt was fluttering, and her tone was indifferent, but she also had a variety of styles, noble and elegant, which was difficult for ordinary people to compare. She was the real fairy in the legend of mortals, ethereal and quiet, not eating worldly fireworks, flying in the clouds, and it was normal for such an existence to defeat Qin Yunling. Being able to kill here also fully proved her extraordinary qualities. Have you decided? I won't be polite to you after I deal with them, Wu Yu said with a relaxed smile. Don't be too confident. Everyone has seen what you have. Of course, I don't need you to be polite. As long as you do your best before that, it's fine. Moug seemed to be born indifferent. Even if she joined forces with Wu Yu, she still had this tone, as indifferent as pale paper, without a trace of emotion. In fact, although the people outside could not hear the voices of others, they could clearly hear their conversation. Many ghosts and gods were not happy with Wu Yu's confident tone. After all, this was the 10,000 hells, their territory. Now many people probably knew that Wu Yu's true identity was an immortal. His contempt for ghosts and gods did indeed arouse public anger. It seems that he is inflated. He defeated the Will Ghost King and the ancient Ruo God. His strength is indeed good, but the other two can enter. Since this person is so arrogant, there may be changes in the battle. It is normal to be eliminated first. However, some people think that although Wu Yu's attitude is arrogant, it can make Moug trust him more and believe that he will not change in the middle. After all, such a tone has already provoked the other two and deepened the involvement between the two people in the two groups. At this time, Moug stood with Wu Yu very simply. She was actually very smart and knew that her only chance was to fight Wu Yu alone in the end. If not, the other two would not let her hold on to the end. After all, the Ice Desert Prison Master would not dare not help Emperor Xianyang at this time. Billions of people are watching. How to explain to Emperor Bian Fengdu after going out? Anyone with a discerning eye can see that the current situation of the battle between the two sides will not change, and the stalemate can be ended. However, in order to prevent teammates from betraying, they will obviously fight one person alone, so they need to choose their opponents. Wu Yu did not allow Moug to object, and said, "You just hold Emperor Xianyang for me first, and wait for me to kill this old guy, and then work together with you to deal with him, and finally decide the winner. How about it? Why don't I deal with the Ice Desert Prison Master? Are you sure you can kill him as soon as possible?" "You are." "I really am." Wu Yu grinned. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1474. Chapter 1469 Bingmo Swipo Lantern. Wu Yu had a smile on his face, but his eyes were firm and full of strong confidence. It seemed that in his eyes, the Bingmo prison master was not worth mentioning at all. That kind of playful attitude and feeling, really contempt for the opponent, the feeling of disrespecting the elders, really made people feel sick. Therefore, many people immediately cursed in their hearts, "This guy is too arrogant. He actually doesn't take Bingmo prison master seriously." If it weren't for this 10th grade Immortal King Palace suppressing the strength of the prison masters, he would definitely not be the enemy of Bingmo prison master in one move. I thought he had a lot of hope, but now he is so arrogant, it is very likely that he will be eliminated first. Of course, when people were watching, they couldn't communicate with each other. Hearing Wu Yu being so arrogant, they could only sneer in their hearts and despise him secretly. Moug didn't expect him to say that. She thought about it and seemed to find that it was not bad for her. She couldn't think of Wu Yu's possibility of calculating herself, so she nodded and agreed. "Remember to protect yourself. I'll be the flower protector after I deal with that old guy." Wu Yu chuckled, and this frivolous tone caused a commotion among the people. Now, many people can see without communication that this Cretaceous Ghost King is not the real one. The Ice Desert Prison Master could hear it, and he smiled coldly, seemingly indifferent, but with his identity, he was regarded as cannon fodder, so he was naturally dissatisfied. "Young man, no matter who you are, you'd better talk less. I'm not the Starry Sky Prison Master. You will soon find that I am different from him." The Ice Desert Prison Master had a cold face and a cold look. When he just finished speaking, he didn't expect Wu Yu to rush towards him without saying a word. This kind of will and courage is not comparable to ordinary people. Of course, in the eyes of the ice desert prison master, or everyone else, this is a kind of contempt for the ice desert prison master. Moug didn't expect him to attack so easily. This is simply a bit stupid. Because when he attacked the ice desert prison master, although Emperor Xuanhuan confronted them, although he held the 9-yin Emperor Demon Battle Halberd, with great power, but in the short term, he didn't seem to take the initiative to attack, but a feeling of standing by and watching. Maybe he really didn't believe that Wu Yu could be safe and sound and defeat the ice desert prison master? No matter who wins, let's deal with him together and then decide the winner. How about it? Emperor Xuanhuan said to Moug. Moug didn't answer. Emperor Xuanhuan said, the ice desert prison master is very dangerous, and the other one is even more terrifying. You have no chance to fight any of them in the end. Moug said lightly, no need to say more, compared to you, I am willing to trust him more. If you don't do it, if he can really deal with his opponent, it will be your turn. Emperor Xuanhuan was a little stunned. He really didn't expect that the relationship between Moug and Wu Yu was so firm. In this case, the later he took action, the more trouble he would have. He was afraid that Wu Yu would defeat the ice desert prison master, but he would not be affected much. Of course, it is also possible that the ice desert prison master would deal with Wu Yu, and then join hands with him to deal with Moug, and he would be the final winner. He and the ice desert prison master have already communicated, and the other party is willing to work for him. After a mental struggle, and he was not sure that he could defeat Moug alone, he decided to wait and see. In other words, he believed that the ice desert prison master would never be defeated by Wu Yu, and he did not let this guy have any consumption. Even if Wu Yu could defeat the ice desert prison master, he would naturally consume more energy. In fact, it can be seen that Wu Yu's current state is not the best. Emperor Xuanhuan is not in a good condition either, so at this time, he chose to seize the time to recover instead of fighting with the other party, and to fight with Moug to the death first. While recovering, watching the battle. At this time, Wu Yu had already collided with the ice desert prison master at this moment. There were countless ice around the ice desert prison master. Suddenly, countless snowflakes were flying, and the entire central light ball became icy and snowy, with ice everywhere. This kind of severe cold is not just the cold of mortals, but the cold that can freeze for hundreds of thousands of years and instantly freeze several mortal worlds. In this cold, Wu Yu's first feeling was that he could not move, and his whole body quickly fell into deathly silence. Stiff, collapsed. A lamp appeared in the hand of the ice desert prison master. The bottle contained blue lamp oil with white mist rising from it. When it was lit, a pale blue flame began to emerge from the wick. The flame was ice-free and motionless. When the ice desert prison master blew gently, a huge blue flame spurted out. Wherever the flame went, everything was frozen. As long as it was touched lightly, it would instantly turn into pieces. Wu Yu knew that this Taixu artifact was called the Ice Desert Snow Soul Lamp, the lamp oil inside was called the Ice Desert Lamp Oil, and the burning flame was called the Ice Desert Snow Fire. Although it was a flame, it was actually extremely cold. At this time, the Ice Desert Prison Master gently pinched the Ice Desert Snow Soul Lamp, pointed his mouth at the wick, aimed at Wu Yu's position, and blew a breath. Suddenly, the blue flame turned into a blue lion, running towards him, treating Wu Yu as prey. Wu Yu was good at changing his shape and form, and although the flames were terrifying, he dodged them one by one in a short period of time, and only looked a little embarrassed. This kind of embarrassment made billions of people see that he was a little powerless, causing people to burst into laughter. It was obvious that he couldn't hold up his boast. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. To be honest, Wu Yu was indeed bragging. In his current state after dealing with the ancient Holmium God King, he was indeed no match for the Ice Desert Prison Lord. Under the attack of the other party's Tegzu artifact, he was indeed quite embarrassed and could only flee in all directions. But there is nowhere to escape. However, the reason why he chose the Ice Desert Prison Master was because Wu Yu had a chance to risk his life and survive. If it were Emperor Xianchang or Mouji, he would be much different from the Ice Desert Prisoner. After all, the Ice Desert Prisoner was only suppressed, but his true strength was still far superior to Wu Yu and the others. This will be worth devouring. The previous wheel-turning Ghost King gave Wu Yu huge gains. If he wanted to get the biggest harvest in this final circle, he had to fight once. The Ice Desert Prison Lord happened to come in. If there was one less Prison Lord and one more descendant of the Emperor Immortal and the Emperor Demon, Wu Yu's last burning, but he failed to add the complete situation, and the situation was quite dangerous. At this moment, after approaching the Ice Desert Prison Lord, he chose to burn at the first moment. After all, this is a desperate fighting method, and you must go to the extreme to solve it quickly and accurately. Therefore, the burning this time is even crazier than when dealing with the wheel-turning Ghost King. Under such game rules, Wu Yu could only burn like crazy when facing the last big blood bowl. Because, as long as this Ice Desert Prison Lord can be killed, all his burning and consumption can be completely recovered. When the blue flames continued to fly in, freezing the entire universe into ice spaces, his whole body was burning with pitch-black flames, constantly changing, shifting, ever-changing, and suddenly he appeared in the Ice Desert Prison Lord it's nearby. "I'm looking for death." The Ice Desert Prison Master's expression remained unchanged. He opened his mouth and spat out, and suddenly a majestic fire came towards Wu Yu. This time, the blue flame turned into a giant whale, which was extremely huge and opened its huge mouth. In an instant, Wu Yu, who was close at hand, swallowed him. Ding ding ding. For a moment, the space as big as a giant whale was completely frozen into ice. Wu Yu was frozen inside and was almost invisible. Let me freeze the snow and fire in the ice desert. If you don't have 100,000 years, you won't be able to think of it. The cold face of the Ice Desert Prison Master finally showed a smile. He didn't expect that at this sudden moment, a terrifying power came from the depths of the ice. That power did not penetrate the ice, but burst out in the space outside the ice. Yunyun seal. Buzz. The void is shattered. On one side, the universe is frozen, locking Wu Yu. On one side, the void was shattered and shaking, and the Ice Desert Prison Lord was in the center of the void. The Ice Desert Prison Master had no idea how Wu Yu could carry out such an attack inside even though he was completely frozen by him. That's because he doesn't understand the void very well. Wu Yu can destabilize the void no matter where he is, even within the universe that is banned by him. The Ice Desert Prison Lord's attack was a slow seal that could only freeze Wu Yu, while Wu Yu's attack was a ferocious explosion of the void. At this time, Wu Yu was burning to an unprecedented level. Compared with the Xuanhuan Ghost King and the ancient Holmium Divine Lord, both were 3 points higher than before. There was no way out this time. If he didn't kill the opponent, devour the opponent, and wait for the burning to come, he might not be able to defeat the 8 Realms Immortal Lord. We must fight. All the power was used on the Oblivion Cloud Seal again, and with one palm push, the void shook. Then everything shook and the world was in turmoil. The Ice Desert Prisoner was full of confidence one moment, but his brows were frowning the next moment. In the next moment, he was stunned, his whole body shattered, and he was annihilated in the void. In brokenness. Buzz. The Ice Desert Prison Lord turned into pieces. The minced flesh and blood between the broken void was controlled by Wu Yu. It came from the void and appeared in front of Wu Yu. In the frozen ice, Wu Yu swallowed it. It can be said that in just one moment, huge changes occurred. First, Wu Yu was swallowed and frozen by the giant whale. The next moment, the void collapsed and the Ice Desert Prisoner died. Then people saw that the giant whale began to collapse. After all, the ice desert prisoner, they were all dead. How could such Hanbing be able to control Wu Yu? I am also busy with some personal matters today. I have only written one chapter so far. I will update it today. I will return the 2 chapters I owe you as soon as possible. Thanks. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1475. Even if Moug and Emperor Xianyang did not fight, Wu Yu did not care. His goal was to use the Ice Desert Prison Master to recover to his peak state. And now, he relied on desperate and strong, actually thrilling battles to win and take down the Ice Desert Prison Master. Not only did he harvest the Ice Desert Snow Soul Lamp, but he also replenished the previous burning consumption. As for the thinking and perception of the Ice Desert Prison Master, everything he has learned in these hundreds of thousands of years will gradually show its effect on Wu Yu later. The things stored in his body of this sky-devouring beast are already terrifying. There are 2 prison masters alone, who were taken into his food and digested completely. When Wu Yu tore the frozen giant whale and came out of it, he was absolutely awe-inspiring. At this time, Wu Yu climbed to the strongest state. His state at this time was definitely much better than the other 2. After all, Emperor Xianyang and Moug each have their own methods, but after so many battles, they are now exhausted and their combat power is less than 70% of the previous one. Compared with the lively Wu Yu now, it feels like the difference is obvious. After defeating the Bingmo prison master, he recovered to such a peak state. This time, everyone saw it clearly, and many of the prison masters were watching. Looking around, you can easily see billions of shocked and puzzled eyes. They don't understand how Wu Yu did it. This scene is similar to the last time he defeated the Will Ghost King and the ancient Ruo God. It is full of doubts. The power of Wu Yu's last move is terrible, especially when he uses a suicidal method. However, this type of attack, even if you defeat the opponent, will definitely cause your own strength to drop significantly. Why is Wu Yu so lively? Impossible. How could this be possible? Shouldn't his fighting power be reduced even more after the battle? I remember that his condition was also reduced after he defeated Gu Ryu Shenjun last time. What's the difference between the 2? If you just look at it through the light ball, even the prison master is puzzled at this time and can't understand it at all. They only know that the remaining 3 are all young people. Emperor Xianyang represents the 10,000 hells, Moug represents the 8,000 heavenly palaces, and as for what Wu Yu represents, people have different ideas. He is still the Cretaceous Ghost King now. Some people know that his real identity is Chifeng Xianjun. Is he the Cretaceous Ghost King or the Chifeng Xianjun? If this goes on, people will be even more confused. Bingmo Prison Master, expelled. The 9-color bead in his hand, of course, fell into Wu Yu's hands. After all, this was just obtained, and even his entire body was swallowed by Wu Yu, let alone this bead. In the central light ball, under the attention of everyone, Wu Yu tore through the ice and walked out, domineering. His eyes swept between Emperor Xianyang and Moug, and finally fixed on Emperor Xianyang. According to the agreement, Wu Yu and Moug would deal with him together. Wu Yu didn't care that Moug and Emperor Xianyang didn't make a move. Now, he needed Moug's attitude, and Moug didn't seem to hesitate. When Wu Yu sent such a signal, she was already holding the Pipa 9 Heavens Fairy Sound in her hand, and there was already a killing intent in her eyes. Her long hair and long skirt fluttered without wind, and storms gradually swept over with her body as the core. Go, Moug asked Wu Yu. What she meant must be that Wu Yu approached Emperor Xianyang and attacked him head-on, while she assisted behind him. She and Wu Yu had different fighting styles. In fact, such a combination would have a stronger fighting power than 2 Wu Yes, because although she was behind him, her piano sound would definitely suppress and restrict Emperor Xianyang to a great extent. Of course, How can we let the demon fairy charge in front? Wu Yu smiled faintly, turned around suddenly, stared at Emperor Xianyang, and sparks flew in his eyes. Dingling dang. At the moment Wu Yu made his move, Moug began to play the pipa with her slender fingers, as if she was composing music for Wu Yu. Facing the double attack, Emperor Xuanhuan's face was uncertain. In fact, at this time, he was already greatly surprised. He never expected that the worst outcome he expected would actually appear. Wu Yu not only defeated the Ice Desert Prison Master and killed him, but even after the end, contrary to common sense, he was not weakened, but became more vigorous. Although it is the worst solution at present, but with his concentration and mentality, he did not panic, but responded calmly. Wu Yu, who was full of vigor, and Moug, who was mysterious and indifferent, constantly changing, and began to play the Nine Heavens fairy music, did not scare him. It seemed that even in the current situation, Emperor Xianyang seemed to have great confidence in himself. His face was cold, as expressionless as steel. He was wearing a black armor with many corpse patterns on it, which looked gloomy and strange. Compared with Wu Yu's current image of the Cretaceous Ghost King, he was more domineering and orthodox. Even if you have never seen him, you can instantly recognize that he is definitely the son of the majestic and domineering northern Yin Fengdu Emperor just by looking at his temperament and demeanor. He was calm in the face of danger, and he had the style of a general in the underworld. In front of Wu Yu and Moug, Emperor Xianyang seemed to have no chance of winning, especially after Wu Yu defeated the Bingmo prison lord. Now the ghosts and gods in hell only support Emperor Xianyang. If Emperor Xianyang loses again, they will lose face in hell. For this 10th grade Immortal King seal, billions of ghosts and gods came here, but in the end they all got nothing. That is really embarrassing. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. It would be really ridiculous if Emperor Xianshang were defeated again. We have so many talented people in hell, but this immortal lord actually took advantage. That chalk ghost lord is obviously not him. Is it possible that the son of Bai Vuchang is really dead? The two of them besieged Emperor Xianshang. He is doomed. He made the wrong move. He didn't take action before. It must be because the Ice Desert Prison Master was able to deal with the Chalk Ghost King. Of course, this may not be the Chalk Ghost King. Even ghosts and gods basically have no hope for Emperor Xuanshang's future at this time. Therefore, in their eyes, there is only helplessness and regret left. With such eyes, Moug played the Nine Heavens immortal music, while Wu Yu and Emperor Xianzhuang faced off head-on. A focus war breaks out. Nine Heavenly Falling Star Song. Moug's eyes were like the deep starry sky, ethereal and ethereal. Her white fingers were flying up and down on the pipa, and the music poured out, just like the stars all over the sky under the nine heavens, shining brightly. Suddenly, these stars fell crashing towards the Emperor Xianshang poured out and happened to bypass Wu Yu. At this time, Emperor Xianshang was holding the domineering Nine Yin Emperor demonic war halberd, using all his strength to fight Wu Yu to the death. He was afraid that he did not believe in evil and wanted to really test Wu Yu's strength. In the halberd, there was the Nine Yin heavenly rules. Emperor Xianshang was like the dark god of war at this moment. The Nine Yin heavenly rules turned into 9 long dark black snakes, which were eerie and strange. They flew out from the halberd and entangled themselves in it. On his body, during the use of the heaven rule, the entire central light ball was plunged into coldness. This was not the coldness of the Ice Desert Prison Lord, but a corrosive, cold negative force. This kind of heavenly power has 9 levels in total, one level surpasses the other. Every attack contained 9 levels of impact, each one more terrifying than the last. For a moment, Wu Yu felt like he was fighting against 9 opponents. Wu Yu is now surrounded by countless chains of bones flying around him, fighting against the Emperor Xianshang. At the same time, above his head, the hell will of dead souls is falling from the sky, suppressing it on the head of Emperor Xianshang. He is concentrating on this. On top of the two kinds of heavenly rules, the dead soul heavenly rules and the enchanting soul heavenly rules, thousands of ghosts were howling and seducing souls. The Wu soul enchanting heavenly rules formed a huge network, attacking from all directions, forming a siege momentum, making the 9 yin heavenly rules can't get out at all. Originally, it was more difficult to suppress Emperor Xianshang just like this, but at this time, Moug's 9 sky falling star song came in, and countless starlights, along with the vibration of sound waves, impacted Emperor Xianshang. It is quite difficult for him to face the impact of 3 heavenly rules alone. Broken, even though his 9 yin heavenly rules were very brave and forced Wu Yu's soul hook away, under the suppression of the hell soul will, he was still in extreme embarrassment. In fact, he was more affected by the 9 heavens falling star song. At this time, Moug's tune changed. Fairy sound dream soul song. The previously passionate voice suddenly became soft and moving, and the whole world seemed to become quiet. Even the people outside fell into a deep sleep when they heard such a voice, not to mention that right when the voice was coming, the Xianshang Emperor in the center. Before, he was hit and completely suppressed, making it even harder to resist Wu Yu's indiscriminate bombardment. Now, he was reduced to another degree, that is, he was sleepy and exhausted. He couldn't even mobilize the power of the world, and it was even harder to stop him. Wu Yu's suppression. In the midst of the immortal sound and dream soul song, Emperor Xianshang roared angrily, trying to wake himself up, but Wu Yu's hell will of soul soon hit his head hard. Boom! The double impact, of course, gave him a splitting headache. Even if he finally lifted it off with the 9 yin Emperor Demon War Halberd, Emperor Xianshang still suffered trauma at this time, and his head was almost shattered by the shock. Such a tragic situation naturally caused waves of uproar. Emperor Xianshang knew that if this continued, he would definitely lose, but he had to be patient and wait for an opportunity. At this time, he saw that Wu Yu was a little relaxed after severely injuring him. Of course, he thought that this might be his best chance. Suddenly, as he was retreating, he held a silver spike about a foot long in his hand. It was thin and long, and the sharpest part was like a silver needle. This sharpness made people's scalp hairy. Numb. Reincarnation thorn, Wu Yu thought to himself after seeing it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1476. Wu Yu knew this Taixu artifact. Of course, it came from the memory of the Ice Desert Prison Master and the Cretaceous Ghost King. This was also the treasure that made the Northern Yin Fengdu Emperor famous unexpectedly. It was also given to Emperor Xianyang along with the 9 Yin Emperor Demon Halberd. But in fact, the name of the Samsara Thorn is even greater than the 9 Yin Emperor Demon Halberd. Because on it is the high-level heavenly rule Samsara heavenly rule. Although it is only a small part of the Samsara heavenly rule, it has suppressed the 9 Yin heavenly rule in terms of level and power. Moreover, the Samsara Thorn kills without blinking an eye. There are many more people who died on the Samsara Thorn than on the 9 Yin Emperor Demon Halberd. It is quite rare for a high-level heavenly rule like the Samsara heavenly rule to appear on the Taixu artifact. It's really patient to save it until now. No wonder he can remain calm in the face of danger, Wu Yu sneered in his heart. The power of the Samsara Thorn is indeed terrible, but at this time Emperor Xianyang is at the end of his rope. Wu Yu doesn't believe he can do anything else. When he saw the Samsara Thorn, Wu Yu knew that he had to strike first. He had already had the chance to defeat Emperor Xianyang. At the moment when Emperor Xianyang was about to kill with the Samsara Thorn, Wu Yu's eyes suddenly burst out, and the furnace appeared again between heaven and earth. The furnace of heaven and earth gathered together, instantly trapping Emperor Xuanhuan in a raging fireball. This is the blazing fire, the first level of flame. Emperor Xuanhuan was completely trapped in it before he could use it, unable to move. Burning in the fire is really uncomfortable for someone like him who is good at yin and cold. Of course, Wu Yu himself is also in this golden fire furnace of heaven and earth, with flames all over the sky, burning violently. The so-called furnace naturally melts everything. 3,000 great worlds and 90,000 small worlds, falling into Wu Yu's golden fire furnace of heaven and earth, must be burned clean. But this is only the first step of Wu Yu's must-kill. He has already thought of a way to kill Emperor Xuanhuan. It was just an unexpected surprise that the opponent actually used the Samsara thorn. But this could not change his second step. In the golden fire world furnace, outsiders could not see the changes inside clearly for the time being. They only knew that Emperor Xuanhuan was trapped by Wu Yu as soon as he took out the Samsara thorn. They could not see that Wu Yu now had something different in his hand. That was the Ice Desert Snow Soul Lamp. The Ice Desert Snow Soul Lamp contained the Ice Desert Lamp Oil. Now, Wu Yu quickly lit the wick and swallowed the Ice Desert Prison Master. Now, he was no different from the Ice Desert Prison Master. Ding! Wu Yu heard that in the Golden Fire World Furnace, Emperor Xuanhuan still shot out the Samsara Thorn first, and the target was Wu Yu. Being able to kill the Samsara Thorn in such an environment, Emperor Xuanhuan was indeed not simple. However, Wu Yu was also quick. He blew suddenly, and for a moment, the blue flame on the wick whistled out, expanded in an instant, and turned into an extremely huge blue dragon, with blue flames all over its body. The fire of the golden fire heaven and earth furnace and the ice desert snow fire seem to be flames, but in fact they are completely different. One is extremely hot and the other is extremely cold. The two flames are completely opposite, but at this time they are mixed together. One traps Emperor Xuanhuan and the other rushes towards Emperor Xuanhuan, causing a huge reaction for a while. First of all, the two flames repel each other. The extreme heat encounters the extreme coldness, which produces a shocking conflict and explosion. The power of this conflict and explosion, under Wu Yu's control, is completely poured towards Emperor Xuanhuan. Although the power of the Samsara Thorn is terrifying, now from the outside, the huge golden flame ball has caused a devastating super explosion because of the birth of a blue flame dragon. Emperor Xuanhuan, who is in the center, is not feeling well. Wu Yu was confident that he could completely defeat Emperor Xuanhuan with these two destructive powers. However, he was a little wary of the Samsara Thorn, which was difficult for him to deviate from the direction, and would keep tracking and difficult to dodge. Wu Yu estimated that if he continued like this, even if he killed Emperor Xuanhuan, he would be threatened by the Samsara Thorn before that. At this time, if Moug could burst out a little power and accelerate the defeat of the Xuanhuan Emperor, then there would be no problem. Demon Fairy. Before this, Wu Yu roared. He believed that Moug understood what he meant, and he knew what methods Moug could use. At this time, she only needed to shake her Lingxiao treasure bell and use the soul-shaking heavenly rules. One shock would shock Emperor Xuanhuan's spirit, and then he would be destroyed faster under Wu Yu's double flame attack. Moug did not disappoint him when Wu Yu shouted this voice. She quickly played the Lingxiao treasure bell in her hand. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Moug had a cold expression on her face. She shook her hand, and the clear sound of the Lingxiao treasure bell immediately swayed in the space of the entire central light ball, and even spread out again, causing many immortals and ghosts of the onlookers to be shaken. Boom! The immortals and gods of those who were hit were strongly shaken, and their eyes went dark, and their whole bodies were tingling, as if they were hit by a heavy hammer on the head, and it was completely difficult to recover. At this juncture, Emperor Xuanhuan would definitely lose if he suffered such a shock. But at this time, why was this clear sound a little strange? Wu Yu just discovered the strangeness, and suddenly, the immortals and gods were tingling. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. He didn't expect that at this juncture, he was actually calculated by a woman. That's right, the one Moug was attacking from behind was not Emperor Xianshang, but Wu Yu. And it was when Wu Yu was facing the threat of Samsara Thorn. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Her abacus was indeed quite good. This timing is unique in the world, and this is the most advantageous time for her. If she supports Wu Yu at this time and successfully defeats Emperor Xianshang, judging from the battle situation, it will be difficult for her to defeat Wu Yu. At this time, she attacked Wu Yu. It was certain that Emperor Xianshang would be severely injured, but his reincarnation stab also brought fatal danger to Wu Yu. This was a gamble. At this time, he gave Wu Yu the sole driving rule. It is very likely that Wu Yu and Emperor Xianshang were both seriously injured. Among them, Wu Yu is likely to be killed by the Samsara assassin. If this is the case, she can easily defeat Emperor Xianshang, who was already severely injured by Wu Yu, and gain the final victory easily. Thinking about it this way, this is indeed the best opportunity. Once she misses this opportunity, she will never have another chance. It is understandable that if a person does not serve himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. It's just that Wu Yu misjudged her. Judging from her previous performance, Wu Yu thought she could abide by the spirit of this short-term contract. But she didn't do that. At this moment, the Ling Xiao Bell and the Samsara Thorn are locked on Wu Yu. It can be said that he is indeed in danger, and he suffered such an impact unexpectedly. However, Wu Yu was Wu Yu after all, and he still had certain psychological expectations. The Ling Xiao bell had just rang, and he felt something was wrong for the first moment. Without saying a word, he directly used the appearance. This time, the change was huge. He instantly escaped from the fighting range and appeared at the edge of the central light ball before the reincarnation assassination attack. Without his support, the golden fire heaven and earth furnace and ice desert snow fire instantly dissipated. Emperor Xianshang was originally in danger, but at this time, he still relied on good luck to escape. However, the previous impact had already left him dying. The remaining strength he had was not enough to support the reincarnation thorn to continue killing Wu Yu. In order to save energy and realize that the situation had changed, he quickly retracted the reincarnation thorn and waited to see what happened. But all in all, Wu Yu's current strength has made Emperor Xianshang, the son of Emperor Fengdu of Bian, in awe. Moug's expression finally changed. She didn't expect such an opportunity, but she still couldn't deal with Wu Yu. She was pushed to the edge in an instant, and looked at Wu Yu with a gloomy expression. Although her eyes were still indifferent, she couldn't help but face Wu Yu. When I looked at him with good intentions, there were already fluctuations. I wanted to give you a decent fighting chance, but it looks like you don't need it. You're quite smart. Moug said calmly, a soldier never tires of deceit. If you are too strong, you will naturally have such consequences. She didn't feel any guilt at all for violating their decision. Okay, then there's no need to be polite to you, Wu Yu smiled. Originally, he was prepared to be a little merciful to her. You should worry about yourself. Moug still had a lot of confidence in her words. After she finished speaking, she looked at Emperor Xianshang and said, if we don't defeat this man, you and I will have no chance. Emperor Xianshang escaped from death and said with a cold smile, you are so good at your wishful thinking. Wait for me to be seriously injured before you join forces with me. In the end, you have the advantage. Moug said, then there is no way. Who makes it impossible for him to find you to join forces to deal with me from the beginning? Her current behavior is that of a true villain, not a hypocrite. However, it was indeed as she had control. If Emperor Xianshang wanted to persevere, the first person to deal with it must be Wu Yu, because once he and Wu Yu were left, he had no chance of winning. If he and Moug were left, if so, there might be some chance of winning. Her soul-driving rules just now did have a certain impact on Wu Yu. Now that the two of them join forces, there may not be no chance. Moreover, she rebelled against the Chifeng Immortal Lord, and the Chifeng Immortal Lord must be even more resentful towards her. I said we are joining forces, but in fact there can be other changes. Everything is a battle of wits and courage, but this Chifeng Immortal Lord is the one who stands out, so we must suppress it first. Both he and Moug knew that the other party could not believe it, but the current situation allowed them to choose to attack Wu Yu from two directions. Needless to say, the two of them had surrounded Wu Yu. Of course, they were also on guard against each other, but from both sides Fang's attitude towards attacking Wu Yu will not change. Wu Yu, who had the best chance before, is now in a situation of being attacked from both sides. It can be said that the competition for the 10th grade Immortal King Seal has been full of ups and downs. Until now, no one can say who has the best chance, not even Wu Yu. Even if you face attacks from two equally strong opponents, you can't guarantee it. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1477. As the saying goes, the first bird to stick its head out gets shot. Now he is besieged by the other two because he is in perfect condition now, which is much better than the other two. This is normal. But Wu Yu is still a little unhappy that he was almost plotted by Moug. Especially when he saw Moug's cold face, she seemed to have no guilt at all. Of course, she did nothing wrong. If a person does not work for himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. But, unhappy, just unhappy. It seems that from the beginning, she has been so high and mighty. It is probably because of her identity as the daughter of the four heavenly kings that she has been honored for more than tens of thousands of years. Wu Yu is indeed powerful, but if it were not for the special environment here, she would definitely not open her eyes to look at him. To be honest, even the prison master, she has never taken him seriously. Back to the heavenly palace, the people who protect her are more than 10 times stronger than these prison masters. Of course, the same is true for Emperor Xianyang, but his situation is the worst now, and his chance is the smallest. For the 10th grade Immortal King Seal, he can only risk his life. Without any hesitation, Emperor Xianyang and Moug attacked at the same time. Both of them were people who didn't talk much. Once they attacked, it was like a storm. They knew very well that the other party was not stupid. They could see at a glance who wanted to be lazy and avoid the sharp edge in dealing with Wu Yu. Only if the two of them tried their best could they deal with Wu Yu. Emperor Xianyang held the 9-yin Emperor Demon Halberd in his hand. The black mist condensed into 9 fierce snakes, entwining it. Beside him, the slender and sharp samsara thorn was like a small poisonous snake lurking. Although it was not big, it was very likely to bring a more deadly threat than the 9-yin Emperor Demon Halberd in an instant. Moug was also quite powerful. She played the 9 heavens immortal sound without interruption every time she shook the spiritual sky treasure bell hanging on her little finger. The soul-shaking heavenly rules that suppressed the immortals would attack, and there was no way to dodge the impact of the soul-shaking heavenly rules before made Wu Yu's head buzz. This meant that Wu Yu had to withstand the attacks of 4 very powerful heavenly rules. Moreover, with the all-pervasive and irresistible heavenly rules of Moug, the battle would become more difficult than dealing with 2 Xianyang emperors. This basically also meant that among the remaining 3 people, the one who might be eliminated the fastest would be Wu Yu. Although Xianyang Emperor was injured, a lean camel was bigger than a horse. Under the situation of little hope, he attacked without mercy and even took the initiative to get close. In fact, he was still fighting with Wu Yu. The only change was that Moug attacked Xianyang Emperor before, but now she attacked Wu Yu. Thousands of troops subduing demons. The tune of the 9 heavens fairy music changed, and suddenly there were thousands of troops. Looking back, in the direction of Moug, there was a fairy air. In the fairy mist, the music turned into heavenly soldiers and generals, thousands of troops, galloping. The power of the fairy music changed. Wu Yu could be said to have experienced the helpless feeling of Emperor Xuanhuan when he was besieged before. Indeed, it was very difficult. And it was not just the thousands of troops subduing demons. Mouji's face was indifferent, and occasionally she shook the Lingxiao treasure bell. The sound rushed directly to the ears, and there was no way to dodge. Every vibration was like being struck by lightning. As for Emperor Xuanhuan, he also tried his best, like the dark god of war, dancing with a war halberd, bombarding the sky and destroying the earth. The nine-headed snakes took turns attacking Wu Yu. During the attack, they also attacked with the sneak attack of the little poisonous snake, the samsara thorn. Once they were hit, they would probably collapse completely, and then they would be easily destroyed in the violent and stormy attack of the two people. Because they were afraid of Wu Yu, they tried their best. Wu Yu was attacked from both sides. Seeing this situation, the billions of people around him, as long as they had a little vision, could see his difficulties. Before, people felt sorry for Emperor Xuanhuan, especially the ghosts and gods, and were very unhappy. Now they are happy. This time, this guy who is not sure whether he is an immortal or a ghost is finally finished. He was too high profile and arrogant before. Now he is besieged by the people of hell and heaven. It is really retribution. Who made him so arrogant before? He really thought that the 10th grade immortal king seal would definitely be his. The immortals thought, the demon fairy is in a better state than the Emperor Xuanhuan. After this guy is solved, the demon fairy still has the greatest chance of winning. Unexpectedly, the demon fairy would have the last laugh. It seems that wisdom and forbearance are also very important. The ghosts and gods said, at least now Emperor Xuanhuan still has a chance. In this battle, that guy has a grudge against Mouji. Once he attacks Mouji, Mouji will also be severely injured. Emperor Xuanhuan may not have no chance, at least it is much greater than before. But no matter what, this arrogant and rude guy is definitely finished. Whether it is from the heaven or the underworld, they are basically very unhappy with Wu Yu, because Wu Yu is a person from both sides and he has to deal with them. All along the way, Wu Yu defeated the Will Ghost King and the ancient Ryu God, and he didn't please either side. The key is that he doesn't know his true identity at all, which is terrifying. If he gets the 10th grade Immortal King seal, then it is simply unknown who got it. Now that he is under siege, people are generally pessimistic, and even a little happy. After all, his performance is the most eye-catching, and naturally he is also envied. Faced with such a double impact, Wu Yu did realize the huge difficulty. From my experience of fighting when I was a kid, if you are surrounded, you must not be distracted. You must catch a weak one and beat him to death. Only then can you intimidate the opponent and even weaken him. Wu Yu is not an idealist. The previous method seemed to be able to escape unscathed, but now it is obviously no longer possible. He must fight with a life-threatening style to achieve the final victory. It just so happens that he is quite good at risking his life. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. He set his sights on the target Emperor Xianshang. Since you were seriously injured, I can only send you away first. He has killed so many descendants of the immortal Emperor Demon of Hell, not least the Emperor Xianshan. At such a critical moment, if he is a little soft-hearted, he will be the one who dies. Dang dang dang. The song of thousands of army subduing demons has already hit, and the soul-dwelling heavenly rules are also constantly shaking, making Wu Yu feel dizzy one after another. His combat effectiveness suddenly drops, and his whole body feels uncomfortable, as if he has fallen into a quagmire. Let alone taking action, it will last for a long time, he might still die. Emperor Xianshang was not affected at all. One of the two heavenly rulers fought head-on, and the other attacked and killed in the dark. They were extremely violent. Wu Yu fought with him, and the universe space continued to explode. Unexpectedly, he was severely injured. At this time, Wu Yu can still be defeated one after another. This is entirely due to auxiliary teammates like Moug, who are in charge of the overall situation. Having a helper like her is so important. Seeing such a scene, although people could not communicate with each other, they could see from their eyes that Wu Yu was so embarrassed, completely suppressed, and unable to protect himself. They felt that it was expected, and this was in line with their predictions. It seems that the real final winner has emerged between Emperor Xianshang and Moug. Who can win in the competition between heaven and hell for the 10th grade Immortal King Seal? It depends on luck. Emperor Xianshang must fight for us ghosts and gods in hell. You have already dealt with the most difficult thing. Why are you still afraid of a woman? They did admit that Wu Yu was the strongest among them, but in triangular battles, the strongest was often the first to be eliminated. The more the other two were afraid of him, the more desperate they would be. The current situation can be said to be quite unfavorable to Wu Yu. However, this does not scare him. He has experienced such difficult situations countless times. And even in the 10th level Immortal King's Palace, he fought with his life in several peak battles. This time it was nothing more than fighting for his life again. Emperor Xianzhuang attacked frantically, almost piercing Wu Yu with his samsara thorn several times. If Wu Yu hadn't had the ability to change his body, he would have died here long ago. Seeing that Emperor Xianshang was still recovering during the battle, Moug's voice was surging, which now posed a fatal threat to Wu Yu. Combustion. It's just a matter of sacrificing one's good condition and burning again. But this time, in order to finally have the strength to deal with Moug, he burned to a small extent, just to give Emperor Xianshang a sure kill move. When he was burning to a certain extent, his whole body was covered with black flames, and he became extremely ferocious again. At this time, the Wu Yu soul hooking lock completely entangled him. In a short period of time, Wu Yu first used the Ice Desert Snow Soul Lantern to blew out a giant blue dragon, rushed towards Moug, slightly blocking her attack, and the next moment, he appeared behind the Emperor Xianshang. Emperor Xianshang was very vigilant, and the reincarnation thorns burst out instantly, targeting Wu Yu's eyebrows. But Wu Yu moved faster than him, and in the blink of an eye, the power of the cloud seal exploded fiercely. Buzz. For a moment, the void shattered. Emperor Xianzhuang was in the center of the void. Even Moug was on the edge of the broken void. This attack could be said to be aimed at two people. Of course Emperor Xianzhuang was the most dangerous. At this time, the samsara thorn was only one step away from Wu Yu. However, Yan Yunyan was faster, and Emperor Xianshang was already severely injured by him. At this time, it was only Moug who could suppress Wu Yu, but this did not change the fact that he only had part of his combat power left, which caused the reincarnation stab to be slower. A little slower, Wu Yu kills him first, not him killing Wu Yu. I didn't want to kill anyone at first, but looking at the trajectory of the samsara thorn, I knew it was either you die or I live. There was no choice at all. When Emperor Xianshang was in disbelief and his flesh and blood collapsed, the samsara thorn also pierced. It almost penetrated Wu Yu's eyebrows. But fortunately, it stopped, because Emperor Xianshang died in battle in full view of everyone. And Wu Yu did not hesitate, summoning his corpse, even if it was powder, he would devour them one by one. After all, he had already been burned. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1478. Of course, he also concealed it a little this time, so that he didn't devour it too obviously. However, after every battle, he captures the opponent's Tegzu artifact and uses it quickly, which will definitely arouse people's suspicion. At this moment, Wu Yu beheaded Emperor Xianshang, transformed several times, and escaped Moug's attack just now. When he stabilized, Emperor Xianshang was already in his stomach. After all, the extent of the burning this time was not particularly severe, so the devouring of a Xianshang emperor restored Wu Yu to perfection again, and there was already a lot left over from everything that had come from the Ice Desert Prison Lord. The siege between the two of them did bring huge problems to Wu Yu and put him in danger, but it would be too naive to want Wu Yu to be eliminated first. Wu Yu took another risk and gained huge rewards. The number of 9 color beads in hand has reached 8. Before, the ancient Holmium god had a 9th grade Immortal King seal in his hand. Unexpectedly, Emperor Xianshang also carried the 9th grade Immortal King seal with him. Wu Yu now has 3 of the 9th grade Immortal King seal alone. He remembered that Moug seemed to have gotten one in the Taixu Immortal Road. 9 colored beads, Moug has 2. At this time, the broken void still existed in the central ball of light. The death of Emperor Xianshang came too suddenly. When Wu Yu held the 9 Yin Emperor Demon War halberd in his hand domineeringly, and then pulled out the reincarnation thorn on his forehead, billions of people couldn't help but gasp. The scene could be described as completely silent. Especially those who thought that Wu Yu was definitely dead before saw such a scene, such Wu Yu, their mouths were dry and speechless, and their faces were quite wonderful. They looked at each other and were speechless. Wu Yu is still too strong here, almost invincible. In one burst, all opponents were annihilated. The Bingmo prison lord and Emperor Xianshang are obviously dead now. How could he be so powerful? How did he do it? I had suspected before that the White Ghost Lord, the Moyin Ghost Lord, the Ancient Holmium Lord, etc. were all killed by this guy. Now that I see it, it is obviously true. Bai Vuchang, Judge Wangji, Giant Spirit God, Bei Emperor Yin Fendu. Let this person kill all these descendants of the Immortal Emperor Immortal and the Immortal Emperor Demon. Oh my God, this. People's eyes widened and they were dumbfounded. The more they thought about Wu Yu's audacity, the more thrilling they became. This was a major event in the entire Tiangong Immortal realm. After making such an uproar, they didn't expect Wu Yu to be able to remain still. The sound and appearance are really terrifying. How can those who doubted him before be able to ridicule him now? Seeing Wu Yu's calm look now, I'm afraid even the Ghost King prison master would have to take a breath. I'm glad I didn't run into the devil Wu Yu. Not only was the center of the ball of light reduced to deathly silence, but the billions of people outside were also in deathly silence. Among them, there were all kinds of people, such as Zi Ming. She was afraid that she also wanted to understand that her father should have died in the battle. At this time, she sat blankly in the ball of light, with tears on her face, looking at Wu Yu's. His eyes were full of fear and helplessness. And that Qin Yuling, she sat on the ground in panic. She didn't expect that Emperor Xianshang would die. Emperor Xianshang's identity was similar to hers. Now that she thought about it, Emperor Xianshang and Bai Chuo were probably at the same level as her. The Ghost Kings all died in the hands of this ever-changing mysterious man. Fortunately, I came out early. Qin Yuling shivered for a while. She couldn't imagine how scared she would be if she were Moug. There were also many prison masters who were glad to see the fate of the wheel-turning Ghost King and the Ice Desert Prison Master. I see, it seems fair, but this is not designed for us at all. We prison masters are really big fools. We come here to train people, especially this person. Now he has killed so many people. How will the descendants of the Emperor Immortal Emperor and Demon end? There are also some descendants of the Emperor Immortal, such as Immortal Siming, Immortal Bei, and Immortal Yinghuo. They are all trembling, and their hearts are now completely filled with fear and anger. Of course, they are also nervous for Moug, and they can see this Chifeng Immortal Lord is already very unhappy when he comes out. What if he kills Moug again? They are unwilling to accept the death of many people in hell, but if they continue to kill like this, Moug will also die. Can this Chifeng immortal lord really continue to hang out in the heavenly palace immortal realm? It was obvious that he could not survive in heaven or hell. I really don't know what kind of sensation it will cause in the entire Tiangong immortal realm if word of what happens here spreads. So many descendants of emperors, immortals, emperors, and demons died at his hands. He really showed no mercy at all. It's simply a devil. How can such an existence exist? Controlled both the 9-yin emperor demon halberd and the samsara thorn? How could this guy control so many top-notch Taegzu artifacts? And he did it instantly? This is totally unreasonable. And after so many battles, how does he still maintain such fighting power? Despite the shock, people still have great doubts. The first is the fighting state, which is still perfect so far, but Moug is tired. The second is the ability to control Taegzu artifacts. The Taegzu artifacts in his hands now come from various powerful people. It is very likely that the owners of these Taegzu artifacts have been killed by him. This is quite doubtful. Of course, the biggest doubt is, who is he? The ghosts and gods are basically sure that he is not the White Ghost King, but he is not the White-Eyed Ghost King either. They can only confirm that he may be an immortal. The immortal kings do know that this person is the Chifeng immortal lord, but the identity of the Chifeng immortal lord must be true. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Maybe, he is actually Qingxian immortal lord? Anyway, I'm confused. Of course, the one whose mood changed the most was Moug. Before, she was still aloof, until Wu Yu broke out of her control and killed Emperor Xianshang in an instant. From this moment on, she finally knew what terror was. Now her eyes were slightly trembling, the look in Wu Yu's eyes had changed drastically. He no longer had the same sense of certainty as before. However, she still said stubbornly, "It's fair to say that I have a chance to fight you alone." Wu Yu tidied up, and there was only one opponent left. The murderous look in his eyes was terrifying enough until now. At this time, he approached Moug, with a sneer on his lips, and said, "How dare you do it in front of me? You have a tough talk. The ancient Holmium god is dead, the Chalk Ghost King is also dead, and I also killed the Xianshang Emperor. You see, I have killed so many people with the same status as you, and killing you again can be considered a success. The table is full." Moug must be trembling in her heart. Wu Yu is now approaching her like a giant beast. He has opened his bloody mouth, as if staring at a little rabbit. In front of her, Moug looked so charming, but she was so pitiful. She knew for sure that Wu Yu wanted to kill her and didn't frown at all. "Who knows if you are at the end of your fight? After fighting, let's talk nonsense again." Of course she was unwilling to give up. In fact, Wu Yu is still too lazy to kill her. After all, he will return to heaven in the end. He doesn't care about the descendants of the immortal emperor and demon. The key point is that in heaven, the ancient Holmium god is completely helpless. As for Moug, he can keep her life if she can. As long as she obediently takes out the 9-colored beads. With 2 9-color beads, I can exchange your life. It's a good deal. Do you want to consider it? Wu Yu stared at this peerless beauty from heaven, staring at her moving figure and ethereal eyes, which made people feel sad. Stifling appearance and nobility in his bones. So much nonsense, obviously proves that you are no longer capable. Moug was still stubborn. It seemed that it was really difficult for her to admit that she was no match for Wu Yu. In this case, Wu Yu stopped talking nonsense to her. He smiled faintly, his eyes were blood red, and suddenly, all the Taegzu artifacts scattered around him. We have Yu Soul Hook Lock. The Prehistoric Thunder Gourd. Hell's Wheel of Souls. Juyan Emperor Demon War Halberd. Ice Desert Snow Soul Lantern. There is also Darkness in the Dark, Sharp Thorns of Reincarnation. A total of 6 kinds of heavenly rules, all under his control, surrounded Moug from all directions, making her look particularly pitiful now. Wu Yu still remembered that the Wanhe cat was still on her body. It was a black cat. At first, I almost bought it, but she snatched it away. It was the first time they met and they were not very friendly. Now, he is only one step away from the 10th grade Immortal King seal. Of course Wu Yu will not be polite. If the other party is really difficult, he doesn't mind killing people. It has reached this level anyway. Facing Wu Yu's 6 heavenly rules, Moug indeed seemed pitiful and fragile. Wu Yu had completely crushed her at this time. There must be something wrong with you. All your methods are very strange. You were not this strong before, and you were not even Chifeng Immortal Lord. Who are you? Of course she was confused, but Wu Yu was too lazy to respond. He said, the god of ancient Holmium may know. If you go to him, maybe he will tell you. Next, he was indeed rude and attacked in turn, including the Weavu Soul hooking lock, the Great Thunder Gourd, the Hell Soul Wheel above his head, the Ice Desert Snow Soul Lantern, the 9 Yin Emperor Demon War Halberd, and the Samsara Thorn. 6 kinds of heavenly rules were suppressed. Moug was unwilling to give in and used all her strength. However, her condition was much worse than that of Wu Yu. At this time, she was completely crushed. There was no hope of a comeback. Under Wu Yu's madness under the bombardment, even though she was tenacious, she was eventually penetrated by Wu Yu's reincarnation thorn, directly piercing her chest. The power of the reincarnation rules quickly formed layers of cages, sealing off Moug. Then, Weavu Soul Hook also wrapped around his body, binding him, which fully displayed his wonderful figure, which looked very exciting. It's over. Wu Yu had complete control over her. Moug turned pale at this time and stared at Wu Yu, saying, you will die miserably. My father will definitely not let you go. Wu Yu stood in front of her and said with a smile, don't be like this, I still want to let you go, but you are not forcing me to kill you. There was silence all around. This result was what they expected. Wu Yu will get everything soon. However, it may be that she has been devoured too much recently. After tying up this stunning beauty, it was difficult to get rid of the blood redness in her eyes, and she actually had an uncontrollable urge to reproduce. There are billions of people around here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1479. In fact, the immortal god at this time has completely turned into a sky-devouring beast. The battle in the 10th rank Immortal King Palace has been going on, especially in the later period, when Wu Yu swallowed several people in succession, including 2 prison masters, and had already reached his limit. If it continues, he might even go into the devil. However, when he relaxed and only he and the daughter of the heavenly king of the state, Moug, were left in the central light ball, the side effects still appeared. The sky-devouring beast has 2 instinctive impulses, one is to strengthen itself, the other is to strengthen the tribe, and the other is to devour and reproduce. Sometimes, the impulse to reproduce is no worse than devouring. Especially when encountering a woman like Moug, whose talent and bloodline are the top in the Heavenly Palace immortal domain, she will definitely give birth to the most outstanding descendants, and she is young, beautiful, and full of vitality, which is the most attractive to Wu Yu. Now, although there were people watching the battle, no one disturbed them. As long as there was a little bit of evil thoughts in her mind, she would immediately start a flame, and it would burn bigger and bigger, like a spark that would set the prairie on fire. In the eyes of the heaven-devouring beast, Moug was the most delicious food, and he was hungry at the moment, with red eyes. With such an expression, approaching her and standing in front of her, Moug could clearly feel the difference. That look was too aggressive, completely ignoring her Taixu artifact-level clothes as nothing, as if he wanted to see through them, so that her nearly perfect body would be displayed in front of Wu Yu. "You, what do you mean?" Moug's original high-handed coldness had long disappeared. Now that the heavenly King Chiguo was not around, no one could help her. It was indeed a pity that she could not get any help from heaven or earth. Wu Yu was already standing in front of her at this time. The indescribable masculine aura on his body was an unprecedented shock to Moug. Therefore, under her pale face, there was a blush, which made her whole body soft and numb. Wu Yu had seen such an intoxicated look on Yu Lingxian. He knew that this was the ability of the giant beast that could make such a perfect woman fall for him instinctively at this time. Of course, she was willing physically, but definitely unwilling mentally. After all, what was her identity? And there were billions of eyes around, all staring at her. At this time, some people could even see Wu Yu's intention. What is he going to do? Forcefully defile? Let billions of us watch. When everyone saw it, they were even more dumbfounded. They had been frightened by Wu Yu's courage, and now, they were even more frightened by his courage. Therefore, these billions of people were in turmoil again. However, Wu Yu could not hear their restlessness, depression, expectation, uproar, etc. Now, in his eyes, there was only the Moug who was tied up by him. His fiery eyes penetrated her clothes and took in her beautiful figure. This was an attraction like thunder and fire, which made Wu Yu almost silent. His mind was blank. Under this instinctive impulse, he could not think clearly now. He could only stare at Moug, and then he suddenly stretched out his hand and pressed her shoulders. "Ah! You're looking for death. Get out of here, get out of here." Moug was trembling all over, her face was blue and red, the feeling of struggling made her eyes red, and she was so scared that tears were flowing out, but her body was hot, and she even felt expectant, which made her even more confused, but she knew clearly how many people were around her. If Wu Yu really wanted to do this shameless thing to her, after it was over, this matter would spread throughout the 8,000 heavenly palaces, and her father's reputation would be completely ruined, and she would become a laughing stock. In that case, I'm afraid that if Wu Yu didn't kill her, she would have to commit suicide. No, 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 she panicked, cried, and trembled. The whole world was collapsing. The tough heart that had been tempered before was shattered. I'm afraid that in her lifetime, she would never have thought that she would have such a terrifying day. This was much more uncomfortable than death. Especially her own body was willing and eager, which made her feel even more ashamed and unbearable. The daughter of the heavenly King Chiguo was almost frightened to her knees. How could such a scene not shock people? For Wu Yu, these billions of people were not just shocked. It can even be said that this was a god who had not appeared in the heavenly palace for hundreds of thousands of years. Next, would he really destroy the flower with a ruthless hand? To have an annual drama to ruin the reputation of the heavenly King Chiguo? Frankly speaking, at least the ghosts and gods didn't care. Even their gossipy hearts wanted them to watch this grand and exciting excitement, which was much more shocking than Wu Yu directly killing Moug. Of course, for the Immortals, especially those from the heavenly King Chiguo's mansion, this was harder to accept than death. At this time, they roared, yelled, and jumped up and down, but it was useless. Wu Yu couldn't even hear their voices. Now in Wu Yu's eyes, there was only this earth-shattering beauty, and definitely one of the best spouses between heaven and earth. He had already held down her shoulders. His heavy, rough breath had mixed with her subtle fragrance. She still remembered her domineering and indifference when they first met. At that time, she would never have thought that this would be the outcome today. At least Wu Yu had lost her mind. Moug wanted to resist, but her body seemed to be half-hearted. Before she could beg for mercy, Wu Yu held down her head amid the noise of the crowd and started biting her rosy lips. At the same time, his huge palm also grasped her softness. Woo woo. Moug was struck by lightning, her whole body was sluggish, tears flowed down. Maybe she had fantasized, but it was definitely not like this now. She was completely scared. After all, as a person of her status, when had she been violated like this before? If she still refused to admit defeat, then the next outcome would be unimaginable, because Wu Yu had no intention of stopping at all, and the next step would be taken immediately. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. She admitted defeat. At this moment of confusion, the only thing she could think of was to use the only strength she could use to release 2 9-color beads from the inner world of the 9 heavens fairy sound and shoot them in different directions. Those were the only 2 9-color beads Wu Yu lacked. Here, please spare me, her tears had wet her pretty face. Wu Yu saw the 9-colored beads out of the corner of his eyes. Only this kind of treasure could attract his attention at this time. In fact, before this moment, his body was completely out of his control. It happened that these 2 9-colored beads made him regain a little clarity. At the same time, he also saw that there were billions of people staring with wide eyes. Damn, what am I doing? Wu Yu was a little more sober, and he was also scared by himself. The key is that his palm is still on the other person's chest. The person in his arms has been blinded. At this time, he is a little more sober, so he has the perseverance to push the other person away. Huh. Black flames burned on Wu Yu's body. This is a good way. He is now full of power and violent, so he is full and wants to vent. Burning can reduce his own power. Even if he does not attack others, he can disperse part of his power and make himself more sober. At the same time, Wu Yu finally calmed down. He felt embarrassed for his previous behavior. After all, no matter how hungry he was, he would not live broadcast in front of so many people. This was even more painful than killing Moug. Such a thing was indeed not what he did. He burned his power in time to correct his mistakes in time. After all, there was Nangong Wei in the Fusion Tower and Luo Bin in the Xianlong Emperor realm. Now only the 9-color beads could arouse his interest. He caught up with 2 beads in an instant and took them in his hands. At this time, his goal was finally achieved. 10 9-color beads were completely in his hands. He succeeded, and he himself did not even expect to succeed, so he was a little overwhelmed by the feeling of happiness at this time. He, not going to continue. Moug was stunned for a moment. In fact, she was just gambling just now, and she didn't expect to succeed. When Wu Yu walked away at this time, she was still numb all over. The reaction of her body told her that she was actually eager to continue, but now she felt a little uncomfortable. However, she couldn't stand it at all. It was so shameful. The key is that she doesn't even know the true identity of the person who brought her such a thrill. But at this time, Wu Yu took the things away and came back, appearing in front of her. Now she was scared again and hurriedly said, "Don't be like this, I admit defeat, and I will never dare to go against you again, please." This pitiful look is not her previous style. Wu Yu looked at her and hooked his hand. He had calmed down. Although he was a little weak after the burning, he could basically control himself. He said, "There is another 9th grade Immortal King seal, which is also mine. Take it out and I will let you go. Otherwise, with so many people paying attention, I can still get close to her. That is also the dream of many people, right?" Unexpectedly, she even took away the 9th grade Immortal King seal. Think about it carefully. Your ending is better than others. Only when you are content can you be happy. This time, I am the only winner. You have to accept it. Wu Yu looked domineering, stretched out his hand and placed it on her chest. This palm reminded Moug of what happened just now, which made her hand over the 9th grade Immortal King seal with hatred and tears. Finally, after collecting all the treasures, Wu Yu pulled out the samsara thorn from her body, but still controlled her with the Wuvong soul lock. Next is the time to witness a miracle. You'd better not move. He wanted to see if the 10th grade Immortal King Seal was about to come out. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1480. He won't continue. Damn, this guy, with such a big momentum, was originally trying to trick the other party into handing over something. Too cowardly, I took off my pants, and you show me this. They watched Wu Yu take Moug away, and there was no intention to develop further, and they were all stunned. Wu Yu's momentum just now made people feel that he would fight here for 10 days and 10 nights before he would give up, but who knew that he suddenly stopped, so freely and freely, really speechless. The ghosts and gods wanted to see a big show, anyway, they didn't have much to lose, of course they wanted Wu Yu to continue, now they can only be depressed. The immortals from the heavenly court finally breathed a sigh of relief, and they retained their last dignity, but Wu Yu's kiss just now, and the movements of his hands, have already made many people's eyes split and their scalps numb. That's the daughter of the 4 heavenly kings. Usually he was so noble that you couldn't even think about it, but Wu Yu was so rude. The mood was up and down, just like riding a roller coaster. Everyone was very depressed anyway. However, they were also curious. In fact, 10 9-color beads could make a 10th grade Fairy King seal, but that was just a guess. As a person who got all the 9-color beads, could he change it into a 10th grade Fairy King seal? Everyone was also very curious. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Wu Yu used another thing to attract everyone's attention, that is, he took out the other 8 9-color beads one after another. Now, there are 10 9-color beads in front of him. Sure enough, the white-eyed Ghost King and the green profound Fairy King are both him. Who is he? Does he have a real identity? What means can be so ever-changing? People were suffocating, and everything about Wu Yu was completely incredible. Now everyone can only focus on the matter of the 10th grade Fairy King seal. Wu Yu was also very nervous. No one knew what the Jade Emperor was thinking, so Wu Yu also watched the changes of the 10 beads nervously. There were indeed changes. After gathering 10 of them, after a while, as if alive, the 10 9-color beads began to rotate around the center. The rotation was very fast. In a short period of time, the speed became faster and faster. The 10 9-color beads rotated into a ring. The eyes could no longer tell how many there were. The 9-color light was also disappearing, and finally turned into white light. Wu Yu was still watching nervously, and everyone was holding their breath, and then looking at Wu Yu enviously. Suddenly at a moment, the rotation stopped, but the 10 9-color beads disappeared, but, replaced by a milky white bead. Its size was the same as the 9-color bead. For the time being, there was no clue, but Wu Yu quickly grabbed it. Looking carefully, there seemed to be phantoms of worlds in this milky white column. 8,000 heavenly palaces, 10,000 hells, 3,000 big worlds, and 90,000 small worlds seemed to be in it. If you look at it a few more times, your eyes will be deeply immersed in it. To be honest, this is different from other Immortal King seals. However, after all, it has never appeared before, and there is only one 10th grade Immortal King seal. It is normal that it is different from others. So Wu Yu didn't care about anything and just picked it up directly to avoid flying away. Now he can basically confirm that this is the 10th grade Immortal King seal. With the 10th grade Immortal King seal in hand, this trip to the starry sky hell should be over. He looked at Moug. Moug was a little absent-minded just now. When the 10th grade Immortal King seal was picked up by Wu Yu, she was a little confused and looked at Wu Yu with fear and awe. She was still afraid of what Wu Yu would do to her. In fact, everyone guessed that when the 10th grade Immortal King seal came into the world, it should be a rosy glow. Unexpectedly, there was so little movement, and Wu Yu immediately picked it up. Is it gone like this? This is the 10th grade Immortal King seal, and he got it? It ended too quickly. I thought there would be a spectacular change. As for how to determine whether this is the 10th grade Immortal King seal, it is actually very simple. You will know by looking at the following changes. Sure enough, it changed. Not only did the central light ball melt quickly, but the light balls on everyone also melted. Suddenly, billions of people appeared in the starry sky. Except for Wu Yu and the other person in the center, they were all far away and very close to each other. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. This basically showed that it was the 10th grade Immortal King seal. The Ghost Kings of the Prison Master immediately restored their full combat effectiveness. This means that the 10th grade Immortal King Palace is really gone. Of course, they reacted quickly. Grab it? Wu Yu is still here. Kill Wu Yu and you can grab the 10th grade Immortal King seal. Maybe the test is not over yet. Being targeted by billions of people, Wu Yu was really scared. It is not easy to escape now. If there are too many people, he will be crushed into meat paste. However, he immediately found that he didn't have to worry. He saw a white halo above Moug's head. At this time, she was attracted by the halo and went up. Then, looking around, all the immortals had the same halo above their heads. Then, fortunately, there was also a halo above his head, which meant that this was the Jade Emperor. According to the rules, he was taking them back to Taizhou Immortal Road. The 10th rank Immortal King seal was obtained, and they didn't need to stay here. It was estimated that the epic god formation of the starry sky hell would also disappear. At this last moment, there were still many prison masters who came to kill him. Wu Yu suddenly had an idea and returned to the heavenly palace. Some things must not be used, so at this time, he shot all of them in all directions. There were too many treasures. The top ones among them were all Taizhou artifacts. For example, the Tianhuang blood flag, the Honghuang thunder gourd, the Weivong soul snatching lock, the Bingmo snow lamp, the Jeshuyan pen, the Juyan emperor demon battle halberd, the Samsara thorn, etc. Although these treasures are very good, using them will expose one's identity, and no matter how good the things are, they must be thrown away. In addition, even the Taixuanation of the ancient Ruo god was thrown away by Wu Yu. Anyway, he threw away all the evidence on his body and threw them all in this starry sky hell. At this time, it even caused a scramble. People couldn't understand why he did this at first, because if he hesitated a little, the treasure would be gone. And the speed at which they left the starry sky hell was indeed quite fast. As the halo attracted everyone, they moved forward in the long river. Suddenly, there was light ahead. People came to a place full of stars. Wu Yu knew without looking at it that this was Taizhou Immortal Road. Perhaps it was because the 10th grade Immortal King seal was obtained in advance, and there were still more than 10 days left for the 100 years of Taizhou Immortal Road, so they would stay here for a while and then return together. Some people could seize the time to find the Immortal King seal. When they just returned, all the immortals were together. Wu Yu was still the Cretaceous Ghost King, which was obviously obvious. When people saw him, they immediately wanted to rob him. After all, it was the 10th grade Immortal King seal. If it were someone else, there might be no way, but Wu Yu was very simple. As soon as the somersault cloud jumped, he flew away for 108,000 miles, and then he changed into another person. He changed back to his original appearance. After all, there was no one around. From now on, I am just an ordinary 6 realms immortal king. It is best not to use the ones I used before, especially the Annihilation Cloud Seal, when I am in my original body. He remembered. In fact, he wanted to take out the 10th grade Immortal King Seal for research, but Wu Yu didn't do so. This thing must be hidden well. The fewer people know about it, the better. When he is about to become an immortal king, it will be best to take it out and use it. There is not much time left. The next time, just hang around and spend it quietly. Anyway, he has a lot of immortal king seals on him. Nangongwei came out from inside. It's time to discuss how to go in the future. Wu Yu hasn't been able to save her completely, so he is a little uneasy about her. Congratulations, a great victory. Nangongwei's tone was mixed, but she was used to Wu Yu creating miracles like this. After you go out, you will return to the immortal Dragon Emperor realm, right? Nangongwei asked with a smile. Well, according to the original plan, yes. Luo Bin has been waiting for him for a while, and she must have missed him. Nangongwei didn't seem to be too disappointed. After all, she had expected it. She nodded and said, "Don't worry about me." She has a good mentality and can think clearly. From now on, we just share an identity. Don't worry. Although she knows more, she also thinks she is your woman. She has accepted her fate and will not mess around. If she really messes around, I will stop her. It means that they will die together. This Fire Dance Phoenix King does know all of Wu Yu's identities. However, since Nangongwei said so, Wu Yu still believes her, and Wu Yu has no other way. He can't imprison her for life. Then, is it decided? Nangongwei smiled slightly, as if she was very relaxed. Okay, Wu Yu couldn't let Luo Bin down. He could only choose one. As for Nangongwei, he had no other way for the time being. Then I will go to find the Eternal Phoenix clan. They are all in the Heavenly Palace. There will be plenty of opportunities to meet in the future. That's good. Bless you. Wu Yu was not used to her gentleness. In fact, she was not like this anymore. Perhaps this change was too much of a blow to him. Okay, Wu Yu didn't know what to say, so he could only nod. Then I'm leaving. Goodbye. She pursed her lips, and finally said goodbye to Wu Yu, then turned and left. The fiery red figure like a flame disappeared into the starry sky. What Wu Yu couldn't see was that after she walked away, her eyes were full of tears, but she didn't know why. Maybe it was because of missing. Of course she knew that Wu Yu went back this time to marry Luo Bin. He saved her, so how could he disturb her? Fourth update. I accidentally owed 4 chapters before, and I have already paid back 2 chapters. I still owe 2 chapters. Soon.